Welcome to Dodgers Dogs. As part of the Dodgers Daily Network, Casey Porter here, joined by Austin Brubaker, and we're going to talk a lot of Dodgers baseball, but we're going to talk about the most is something that is dearest to our hearts, closest to our hearts, and that is prospect talk tonight, specifically talking about the Rule 5 draft. Austin, as we bring you in, teams have to declare who they were going to protect on their 40-man roster from the Rule 5 draft Tuesday.
Yes, it is coming up very soon. Tuesday, I don't know what time it is. I would assume it's maybe 5 o'clock Eastern. I don't know what the specific timeline is, but Tuesday is the day. Tuesday is an important day for Major League Baseball teams and organizations because they have a list of players at the minor league level that they will have to add onto their 40-man roster. Otherwise, they're going to be subject to be taken for the Rule 5 draft coming up, which will take place at the winter meeting sometime in the beginning of December. I actually don't know the exact date of the Rule 5 draft this year. I just know that major league teams have to make a decision as far as which players they want to protect, and thus the Dodgers have to make a decision because that could add players to this 40-man roster by Tuesday. So I think it is important for everybody to be able to know the guys who could be subject to a Rule 5 draft and the potential names that the Dodgers are going to have to consider protecting until then if they want to keep them with this in this organization. Again, not every single player on this list will get taken in the Rule 5 draft, but these will be potential players that could be eligible that if the Dodgers do not add them onto their 40-man roster, they are risking losing them for essentially nothing. I think there might be a monetary payment, but very little. They're losing them for nothing, especially in the Dodgers mindset. So it is important to keep each one of these guys in mind as far as Rule 5 draft. And we're going to be going through a giant list of them.
We absolutely are. Who you're seeing right here is Austin Gauthier. I'll get that effect off there so you can see a little bit better here in just a second. So we're going to go through the names of the players that are the ones that are we're not going to go through every single one. There's like 100 of them, but the ones that are going to be given the most amount of consideration for being protected. And then also we're going to give our opinions on whether we think they're going to get protected or not, and whether or not if they don't get protected, they'll get taken, like a Ryan Noda or a Gus Varland last year or a Jose Hernandez a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. So I can tell you this. I've been in communication with about 4 or 5 different people tonight, and I can tell you nobody knows. Yeah. Nobody knows who's going to get protected. I don't think if you asked anybody in the Dodgers organization right now, they have not made their mind up. There's a lot of marginal type situations, and so there's just a lot to work through. I know we're going to go through how it's going to affect the roster, how if they did protect 2 or 3 of these guys, how it would work towards the 40-man roster and how the Dodgers could make it work. So kind of go through some names just preliminarily here, to begin things with some of the names off the top, Austin.
Okay, so we'll get into Austin Gauthier in just a second, but I want to first lay the foundation of where the Dodgers roster is currently as we speak, because this will lead you to, okay, how many potential openings could there be? And then we'll go into the individual players. So currently as we speak today, and this actually changed from what it was a couple of days ago. Actually, I think it was yesterday, the Dodgers actually made a move to their 40-man roster that was anticipated, that Connor Brogdon, who's actually came over from the trade with the Philadelphia Phillies in exchange for Dodgers prospect Benoni Robles, who's now in the Phillies organization. Shout out to Benoni. Yeah. He was removed from the 40-man roster. He did not have any minor league options. Made all the sense of the world to get him off of the 40-man roster. So that opened up a 40-man roster spot. So currently, as we speak, the Dodgers have 37 players on their 40-man roster, which means theoretically they have 3 potential openings. They could also look to move guys, or, for example, I'm assuming that they're going to do something very similar to what they did with a Connor Brogdon to a Zach Logue, because he doesn't have any minor league options as well. That could open up another additional roster spot for the Dodgers to be able to move. So they have a couple of roster spots. They also have holes they're wanting to fill in through free agency. So there's limited options as far as the number of roster spots available, especially with a lot of the roster spots taken up in free agency right now, but players who will be injured next year. So there's a lot of moving pieces. But there is the possibility for the Dodgers to not just add 1 or 2 players, but up to, I would say, probably 3 of these players would be the most that the Dodgers would be able to add and still be able to make a lot of moves, especially with some of their legacy type players potentially signing after spring training starts, which means you can move guys onto the 60-day injured list. That kind of sets the background of where things have set. So they have a couple of different options if the Dodgers wanted to protect some of these guys from the Rule 5 draft, which there are some incredibly talented players that would get very serious consideration from other organizations. And I think that leads us to the first player that we're going to be talking about. Casey, you already brought it up on the show, Austin Gauthier. Austin Gauthier is one of my favorite players in this entire organization. Undrafted free agent, came up through this organization, and just about everywhere that he has been put, he has succeeded, and he's done it in some pretty incredible ways. He doesn't have the overwhelming power, which I think is part of the reason why some of his numbers in Oklahoma City were diminished from what they were at past levels, but he still has that 10 to 15 home run power. He can play just about any single position that you put him in. You can play a little bit of short. You can play second base, third base. He's played a lot in corner outfield spots.
He's Tommy Edman-ish.
Yes, he's very much Tommy Edman-ish, in which case he's got a lot of positional versatility, which I think is incredibly important on this team, especially if you're anchoring a lot of your talented players in a lot of those corner spots. You need guys that can go out there and fill different positions, and especially if this is going to be Chris Taylor, CT3's last season, which I think is probable at this point, given his declining production and him having one more year plus an option on his contract. You could look for additional players that could help fill into that void. And with Austin Gauthier, he draws a ton of walks. He's going to make a lot of good, consistent contact. He can be versatile in just about anywhere that he goes. And let's remember back to spring training, he hit that grand slam in front of Dodgers fans. And I think there was a lot of excitement about that. But more importantly than that, there's a lot of predictive power, which seems to indicate that he's going to be at least make it to the professional level. Talk about his 2023 season, which I wrote an article about, which actually is pinned to my Twitter profile right now, an article I wrote for Dodgers Daily. He was one of 20 players in minor league baseball, and there's no players in 2024, so this still holds true. One of 20 players since 2006 in minor league baseball history to have a 150 WRC plus, meaning he's 50% better than the league average hitter, more walks and strikeouts, and 500 plate appearances, which means this isn't just a small sample size that you're collecting. This is about as big of a sample size as you're going to collect at the minor league level. He was able to consistently walk more than he struck out. And he was able to, which means he's putting the ball in play and drawing a lot of walks, and was incredibly productive by that. And the players that are on that list, or even just who put up a 150 WRC plus in a single season, there's a lot of translation to the big league level, which means there's a lot of reason to be excited about Austin Gauthier and what he's able to do. I think he's one of these players that you don't want to give up on, because it's very hard to find versatility to the extreme that he provides. And we've seen the Dodgers, they love players that draw walks. They love versatile players. That is the exact same type of player that Austin Gauthier is, and I think he would make a great Los Angeles Dodger.
Everything you said right there is 100% correct. I'm going to put it in my terms very simply, in that he is a young man that knows how to execute winning baseball plays.
Exactly.
Both offensively and defensively. He is the Dodgers minor league version of Tommy Edman. He can play shortstop. He could probably play a very high caliber gold glove, or not gold, a very high caliber second base for the Dodgers. He's played left field. He could probably play center field if you needed him to. He's gritty. He's tough. He is a dirt worm. He is that dirt dauber that Coach Holt talks about. And I'll tell you what, he grew up in Virginia and played his baseball at Hofstra in New York, which, by the way, John Rooney, he declared to be a free agent So did Drew Avens. So congratulations to those two. Alec Gamboa has not done that yet because he is eligible for the Rule 5. So probably trying to wait and see what happens with that. So good luck to Drew Avens and John Rooney. I have talked to John Rooney, and he said he has a lot of offers, and he's very excited about them, and he's trying to figure out which ones that he's going to accept. So congratulations to John Rooney there. And so this is some Austin Gauthier stuff from not this last 2024
I remember
season.
that home run, too. That was a big home run to tie that game. I was sitting in those seats in Peoria.
Yeah, so he is a guy that he's going to win on the margins. I mean, he's not the guy that he's not the Hall of Fame type, Juan Soto type acquisition type guy. He is the Tommy Edman. He's going to help you win on the margins. And so from that perspective, I do think it'll be very interesting to see if the Dodgers protect him. I would not probably predict it. And I say that to say there's just so much competition on the Dodgers 40-man. I could be totally wrong. And I also say that from a perspective that, to be honest with you, these guys that are on the margins like Austin Gauthier, it will not upset me whatsoever if they don't get protected and then they do get taken in the Rule 5, because if they go to another organization, if Austin Gauthier goes to, say, the White Sox, he is going to be a major leaguer, and he's probably going to play every single day for that team. And I think at best, a guy like Austin Gauthier, at very best, will be a role player utility type guy at the major league level for the Dodgers. So in a lot of ways, I'm torn because, yes, I want to see him get protected, get put on the 40-man, but then I also know the business side of it. It's likely going to be a better business decision if they don't get protected and then they get picked up elsewhere. So
yes, yeah, and that is the balance for, I would say, just about every single guy that we're going to be talking about today. There is probably going to be more limited opportunities with the Dodgers. Doesn't mean that those opportunities won't come. I don't know what exactly the plan would be for that, as far as making sure they have opportunities to be able to grow and get integrated into the Dodgers system. But that's where Casey and I are torn apart, because I think we could probably see better opportunities, especially if you get picked in the Rule 5 draft. You're on a major league roster for the entire season. So you're with that organization for all of the entire season, which is something important to keep in mind. This isn't just you get picked up by another organization and get added onto their 40-man roster. You have to stay on their major league 26-man roster for the entirety of the 2025 season. I think a player like an Austin Gauthier is talented, versatile enough to be able to stick onto a major league roster for an entire season. And I think he would make a lot of teams happy. For that, there's part of me that is rooting for him not to be protected by the Dodgers. Yeah. But from a mental side, as far as if I was selfish, if I was the Dodgers and I was looking for a type of player, that would be an exact type of player that I would want to keep around with this organization. So there's with each one, all of these guys were torn in a lot of different directions. That is the case for Austin Gauthier and what he can do going forward.
Yeah. And I'll say this, you mentioned the big one. So if these guys get protected, that means they get put on a 40-man roster. If they get taken in the Rule 5, not protected, then taken in Rule 5, they get put on a 26-man roster. So it is substantially a better deal to get taken in the Rule 5 draft than it is to get protected and put on the Dodgers 40-man roster. Because, I mean, they can toil around like Hunter Fiducia has many different years. So big fan of Austin Gauthier.
Yes.
We'll see how it goes. However it goes, I can tell you this. He's never going to quit, and he's going to continue to get better. From all indications that I have, all the information I have been given, he's added, I think, like 20 pounds of weight to add, because the one, I think, missing element, he has the bat-to-ball skills. He has the walking more than the striking out. That right there, if that ball right there can turn into a home run, then now we're talking about a surefire, real, I mean, big time Tommy Edman type of guy.
Yes,
at that point.
And that is the upside. I would say a Tommy Edman like a player, which you saw how valuable a Tommy Edman is and how valuable that could be to any type of organization. That is the reason why you would want to consider protecting a Austin Gauthier. And Yeah, he's incredibly talented. I have all the respect in the world for what he's able to do. Absolutely have loved watching him within this organization, and I think it would be smart for the organization to keep him around if that's what the Dodgers decide to do.
I know I would, from a personal, I mean, like from a selfish perspective, I would absolutely love it. So let's move on to our next guy here. Austin, you see him on the screen, playing for Team USA and absolutely tearing it up right now. And that is old Wardo from Millbury, Massachusetts, graduated with less than 100 kids in his graduating class, played in cold weather again at Bryant. Only Bryant Bulldog to hit 400 for one season ever in the history of that school. Backed that up the next year by hitting 386. A couple of years ago, he was hitting about 280, and he was leading the entire organization. That's from major leagues on down in home runs. I've said this more than one time. Ryan Ward has the best hit tool of any Dodger minor leaguer that's at an affiliate right now. I don't think there's any doubt about it. The problem is outfield. He doesn't have the Andy Pages type arm. He has gotten a lot better in left field. He's played some first base. So if the Dodgers don't protect him, which I doubt they do, it's not because he's not good. It's because just from a defensive perspective, I don't see where he fits in.
Yes, that is the complicated factor, especially because I think most Dodgers fans are expecting or predicting a reunion with a Teoscar Hernandez. If that is the case, he's going to be in the left field position more than likely. You already have Freddie Freeman at first base. You can't keep Ryan Ward down at the minor leagues for this entire time, and you don't have the designated hitter spot open, which leaves a very complicated factor unless you wanted to move Teoscar to right field and then have Ryan Ward switch over to left or have him platoon somewhere. It creates a lot of complications as far as finding a way to fit him on the roster. I will say this, as Casey had mentioned, right now there is baseball taking place. A little bit more difficult to find it. Ryan Ward is playing for Team USA Baseball, and it seems like every single day I'm getting a notification from USA Baseball, or Austin Chubb is retweeting Ryan Ward hit another home run. This is one of these kids, one of these prospects where you might not anticipate him being one of these extreme power hitters. He has about as much power as any single person within the organization, if not more power than any single person within the organization. If not, he can go out and hit 30 to 35 home runs. It's incredibly impressive what Wardo has been able to do. And you saw it recovering up through the course of the 2024 season in Oklahoma City. He just kept hitting homer after homer and being productive after productive. What I see with Wardo is very similar to what I saw with like a Ryan Noda from 2 years ago when he got taken. I think that type of bat and what Wardo has been able to do, I think is going to be very intriguing with the power that he's able to provide to other organizations, where an organization that might not have as much power as the Dodgers or might have an opening at the corner at first base or in left field could take a chance on a guy like a Wardo. And I think they would be very happy, especially after what he's doing for Team USA Baseball right now. I think he is putting it at the front of teams' minds. Hey, I'm ready to go. Get me to the major leagues, whatever way and whatever it takes. Wardo is incredibly talented.
Yeah, I will say this. I think that's a pretty good comp with Ryan Noda. Noda, I think they have similar power profiles, but Noda is, my opinion, quite a bit better defensively. Yeah, I think he's more athletic. I think he's bigger at first base. He's a bigger target. I think he moves a little bit better. I think in the outfield, he's more natural. He played some right field. We saw him make that really nice diving catch in spring training 3 or 4 years ago. But I've seen Ryan Noda play many times in right field, and he is a tremendous athlete. I mean, he was known in high school to take the ball off the rim. He was his high school point guard back there in the Chicago area and take it off the rim and go coast to coast and slam it on the other end. So Ryan Noda is a borderline elite athlete, especially when you compare him for his size. I don't think Ryan Ward is that caliber of an athletic type frame and athletic type person. So I think the defensive part of it really kind of matched with Ryan Noda. But I do think if the Dodgers don't protect Ryan Ward and he is left vulnerable to the Rule 5 draft, I do think he'll get taken because he is major league ready. He has major league power. He has a major league hit tool, and you throw him in left field and you let him get better every day like he's done at the minor league level. But you got to keep in mind, when you're the Dodgers, you're thinking he has to be plug and play ready right this second. He's got to go to left field and be perfect right now. Well, that's not the case for the Pirates. That's not the case for the Marlins. That's not the case for the Chicago White Sox, right? They can throw a Ryan Ward out there and work with him for a year or two in the outfield and make him as serviceable as they need to make him, play him at first base every once in a while, DH him every now and then, and say, hey, Wardo, I need you to go out there and I need you to hit 30 to 35 home runs. I need your OPS to be about 820, and I need your strikeout percentage to be around 25%, and your walk percentage to be around 12 or 13%. I think he could do that, and at that point, I think he would be a solid major league player.
That is a lot of the upside that Ryan Ward has, and I think a lot of other teams would probably be more patient and give more opportunities with him. This is something I'll probably talk about in a show upcoming. I did a little bit of research as far as opportunities Dodgers give to rookie players, and it's not as much as other organizations, clearly because of the talent that the Dodgers have. Ryan Ward is an incredibly talented player, one of these guys that I think a lot of teams have circled, and a lot of teams are looking at him, even right now, doing a lot of scouting for what he's doing for Team USA baseball. And I'm sure a lot of teams would love to see that left-handed swing and that left-handed power be able to provide that and fill the seats up at some opposing ballparks if the Dodgers do not protect him, which I would predict they probably won't, just given the outlook of where the roster is and where the roster is projected to be. But if the Dodgers decide to protect a Wardo, they better give him an opportunity, and I think he'd be hitting some home runs at Chavez Ravine.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So the next guy, do you have anybody in mind, or you want me to just kind of wander around? So let's
go over, and then you can go ahead. I'll go through some of the position players as far as the list, and then we can dive in as far as different players that you want to stop by. So these are some of the position players that I have currently circled as the other position players that should be available for the Rule 5 draft. You have catcher / second baseman / he can kind of move around to do a lot of different things. Yainer Fernandez, he's going to be eligible for the Rule 5 draft. You also have another guy that can play the catching position, plays a little bit of first base as well. GLP, Griffin Lockwood Powell, a good friend of the show. You also have third baseman Cody Hoese, another intriguing name to keep in mind. Brandon Lewis, another guy who can play first base, maybe a little bit of third base. Outfielder Damon Keith, DK, is going to be eligible. You also have Jose Ramos, somebody that we've talked about quite a bit as far as having a lot of the tools, but maybe not reaching the entire potential that he has quite yet. Still a lot of great tools that he has. And then you also have Jake Vogel, a talented outfielder that spent a lot of time with Great Lakes last season. Any specific one of those names that you're wanting to go over and covering right now as far as Yainer Fernandez, Griffin Lockwood Powell, Cody Hoese, Brandon Lewis, DK, Damon Keith, Jose Ramos, and Jake Vogel?
Yeah, you know who I'm going to cover first, right?
All right, let's hear it.
Just an absolute tremendous year, and that would be Cody Hoese. And he's always been elite defensively. Now, the hit tool's taken a minute to come back around. Not come around, but come back around. When he got started in 2019, he was a first-round draft pick in 2019. He got off to a really good start, and then he had, in 2021, he had the oblique injury. 2022, he broke his leg. And then 2023, he had a couple of things that kept him out. So this last year, 2024, was his first season where he was able to go from start to finish, Cody Hoese was, healthy. And he showed exactly what he's capable of doing when he is healthy. Now, he did a lot of this early on, right? A lot of just fighting the ball off, and he got a lot of base hits, just kind of to right center. He got this right here, that type of thing. He got a lot of hits, maybe low liners to left field. Hits like this one right here that you're getting ready to see. He got a lot of this early, okay? But then what happened to Cody Hoese is, as the season went on and he started really getting very confident, he started driving the ball. And by the end of the season, he looked like this right here. Wow. I mean, he started tying into baseballs really, really, really nicely. That's from July right there. And from July on, I mean, he just continued to swing the bat with authority. Here's some defense for him right here. He is just a wonderful defender. I say it all the time. He's easily the best third baseman defensively in the entire system.
Yes.
But the thing about him is that he got so much better with the offense and the bat this year. You got Max Muncy, who's going to be here for a couple more years. You got Chris Taylor that can play third. You've got all these guys in line. I don't anticipate the Dodgers to protect Cody Hoese. I think if he was on their radar, he would have gotten at least some kind of playing time or a call-up last year instead of like a Kevin Biggio, that kind of thing. So that just tells you right there that I don't think – see that right there? That's how he started tying into balls. He started getting really confident. So I think the way that they treated him last year should be an indicator. If that's an indicator, he will not get protected. But I do think there's a really good chance that Cody Hoese gets picked up in the Rule 5 draft. If he's ever going to be Major League ready, whatever that term means, it is right now. He is as Major League ready as he could possibly be.
Yeah, he's one of those guys, if you don't remember, was a high round draft pick for the Dodgers. A lot of potential, has dealt with a lot of injuries, and there is a lot of people had given up on a Cody Hoese, and there were some signs in the numbers which I was able to pour through and like, maybe there's something that he had, looking at some of the splits that he had late last season, and because he was healthy, a lot of these pieces were able to come together for him in Oklahoma City. Incredibly, it's one of the better stories out of the Dodgers system in 2024, what he was able to do. Because if you look at his previous two seasons in Tulsa, 2022, and the only reason that I'm showing these numbers is because it shows the growth that he's had. 2022 and 313 plate appearances, 56 WRC plus. 2023 had a 79 WRC plus, which is getting a little bit better, but there's still not a lot of growth. Last season at Oklahoma City, which means he moved up an additional level, got that over 100 at a 108. Combine that with his ability to play great defense at third base, not good, great defense at third base. And that 108 came with 525 plate appearances at Oklahoma City. He struck out less than 20% of the time. He put up some really good numbers, 17 home runs, 287. There's a lot of good things to say about Cody Hoese, and you combine that with the potential that the Dodgers saw in him when they drafted him. A lot of those pieces are coming together into a really nice baseball player that you could see, hey, this guy should be a major leaguer coming forward at some point and get an opportunity. I think you said it right. Where the Dodgers are at right now, they have Max Muncy, who will be playing third base in 2025. Yes, I know there's a lot of rumors or people speculating, hey, if they bring this guy in, Max Muncy is going to be the third baseman in 2025, albeit unless there's an injury. And he has a team-friendly club option in 2026, and I think it is likely that he's going to be playing third base for the Dodgers in 2026 as well, which limits the opportunities for Cody Hoese over the next two seasons, unless there is an injury, for him to be able to make it to the big leagues, especially because they're bringing back some of the they have Chris Taylor, they have Miguel Rojas, and they have some of these guys that are going to be on the bench. That being said, the turnaround that he had in 2024 was phenomenal. And I think this is the start as he continues to progress, as he continues to get at bats at the high levels of the minor league system, that some team should very seriously consider taking a type of talent that is Cody Hoese and what he's been able to do. His story for what he was able to do from the lows that he had to him getting additional chances at Oklahoma City and not just surviving, but thriving at them. Just absolutely incredible.
Yep. Go through some of the names again, Austin.
Yeah, so we'll go through
the position players again. Go over them one more time.
Yeah, so we'll talk about just briefly the two catchers, or they can play a couple of different positions. Yeiner Fernandez, we'll start off with them. Spent a lot of time for Tulsa last season. More of those contact-oriented type players, plays a little bit of catcher, transitioned a little bit more to the second base position, or at least played a lot of second base, played a lot of infield. He's dynamic.
Caught
he's
more
athletic.
Once that Russian got called up. And once Diego got called up, he got quite a bit more.
Yes, yeah, and that's part of why Yeiner wasn't playing a lot of catchers. You had Diego Cartaya and you had Dalton Rushing as part of the catcher. You're going to get a lot of starts because they're very close to being major league ready. Yeah. So he found ways to be able to be dynamic and find ways to be able to get onto the field. His bat to ball skills are really, really good. He's one of those guys that he's going to hit a lot of singles, or he might scratch up a lot to doubles. Not a ton of power in his bat, but he's feisty and he's going to go out there and give it everything he's got.
Yeah, he was at the AA level, and not going to sugarcoat things. I don't mean to be negative or anything, but he just did not have the greatest of years, especially for what he's capable of. I think if you ask Yeiner Fernandez, hey, what type of year, what do you expect out of yourself? I think he would say, at least at the minor league level, I need to be hitting somewhere around 300. I need my OPS to be around 800 because I hit a lot of doubles, that kind of thing. I need to steal probably 20, 25 bases, and I need to have an on-base percentage of 375, 380. I think that's what he would tell you for him, for his profile, his type of player, for him to be considered a serious consideration for being a major league player. That's what he would have to do at that type of level. He did not do that last year, and so I think he's capable of it. But because of that, I think it would be as long shot as a long shot as you could get to say that somebody's going to take Yeiner Fernandez. It would definitely be a long shot if the Dodgers protected him on the 40-man, and I think it would be an equal long shot if somebody took him and put him on their 26-man roster. So I think the Dodgers will get this young man. Of course, we're just guessing, and guesses are just guesses, right? So we could be dead wrong, but I do think he will be back in the Dodgers system this next year.
Yeah, I anticipate that he'll be back. I'll also probably anticipate that next guy we'll bring up, which also can play a lot of catcher, Griffin Lockwood Powell will probably be back as well. He's a bit taller than Yeiner Fernandez is. He has also got a little bit more power. I remember him back in 2023, spent the entire season with Great Lakes, had a game against Lansing where he had that cycle. I was actually not able to go to that game. That was pretty awesome what he's able to do. He's got a little bit more power. He's got the ability to drive the ball a bit more doubles power. He can also hit it out of the ballpark as well. Plays some catcher. He can throw some runners out. A lot of first base too. I'm not anticipating, because of the limitations that the Dodgers have in their ability to protect players, him to be protected. Still another one of these really talented players that is eligible for the Rule 5 draft this season. Another important player to keep in mind, and also an insight with both Yeiner and with GLP, that adding positional versatility to the catching position is actually something that the Dodgers have been doing a little bit at the minor league level, something that they should keep in mind when trying to figure out how to fit all of these catchers into the major league level as well.
What do you think about Ramos? Because GLP, Griffin Lockwood Powell, he had a really good year till about June, and then the second half of his season wasn't up to his standards offensively. So I think the Dodgers will get him back as well.
Yes.
I think two guys that are very intriguing: Damon Keith, who has elite exit velos.
Yeah.
Damon had the Ham8 deal till about June, and then he had the 2 walk-offs the first week he was back. That was a lot of fun. But nobody hits the ball harder than Damon Keith. There's a lot of swing and miss in his offensive game, and we know there's more swing and miss in Jose Ramos's game than anybody in the Texas League. Matter of fact, he led the Texas League in strikeouts. So what are your thoughts on – let's start with Jose Ramos. I'll get some video up on him, and you can go ahead and give your thoughts there on him, Austin.
Yeah, it can be frustrating at times, because I think when you're talking both about Ramos and when you're talking about Damon Keith, they have some of the best raw tools within this entire system. You talk about Jose Ramos having he plays a really good, solid defense just about anywhere that he has. He also has a rocket of an arm out there. He has just about as much power as anybody in this system. He can hit the ball in incredibly long ways.
Oh, he plays way better than average defense. He's a way above average.
Absolutely.
With the arm he has and his speed and as rangy as he is, he's way above average defensively.
He can fly out there. You would feel very comfortable with him out there. Any single position out there in the outfield, even center field, you'd feel really comfortable about what he'd be able to do. And the power that he has is legit and real. It is simply about making consistent contact and limiting a lot of the strikeouts, which he was not able to do during the 2024 season, which is unfortunate. And I think that's probably going to draw a lot of teams away from him, because if he's not able to do that at AA, there's going to be increasingly amount of concern that he won't be able to do that at the major league level. That has to be the next level and next step that he has to make in his journey. All the raw tools for Jose Ramos to be a really solid major league player is there. It is about fitting those pieces together to get him to that point where he needs to be, which I know with him and with all of these guys, they're doing everything that they can to put all those pieces together. It is a process for each one of these guys, though.
It absolutely is. So let's move to our next position player, one of my favorite guys in the entire system. I would bet that he's probably the strongest, either him or Logan Boyer, and we're talking about Damon Keith. Look at that tree trunks on him. This dude right here, he absolutely pelts that right center field gap, and he hits the ball so hard. His exit velos are just amazing. But again, he's like Jose, and again, Damon Keith, incredible athlete. I think he's the fastest guy on the TulsaDrillers team last year. That's not an exaggeration. I think him and Jose Ramos, maybe him and Jake Vogel might have a pretty good foot race, and Jake Vogel is known for his speed. That's how good of an athlete that Damon Keith is. He doesn't quite have the arm that like a Jose Ramos has or like a Andy Pages has, but it's not a terrible arm. It's definitely serviceable. I mean, it's as good as a Teoscar Hernandez type of arm, right? So I think Teoscar Hernandez would be a pretty good major league comp to Damon Keith, a guy that's going to hit some home runs. He's going to have good exit velos. He's going to be a good defender with a decent arm and the potential to hit a lot of home runs, but then also have a lot of swing and miss too. So Damon Keith, I think it would be, I'm with you with Jose Ramos and Damon Keith. I think it would be surprising if he got protected, seeing that he was just at AA last year. I think it would be even more surprising if he got taken in the Rule 5 draft after he wasn't protected. But this is a young man that at any moment could hit his stride. About a Cal Baptist, you see that lift right there. That's why he swings and misses. It goes right over his barrel a lot, right? But he could get hot and hit his stride, and when he does that, he can carry offenses.
Which let's give DK some credit for what he was able to do last year, which he did not start the season immediately last year. It took him a little bit before he was able to get onto the field, but once he got onto the field last year at his first year at AA Tulsa and 318 plate appearances, a 132 WRC plus.
Yeah.
Hit 259, 340, 496, 16 home runs. And let's hear, how about this? He went from 4 stolen bases in 106 games to 13 in 75. I know TY was bugging him about that, given his sprint speed and what he's able to do, which, by the way, you talk about that 2023 Great Lakes team that stole 1 million bases. That was without Damon Keith, and Damon Keith was one of the fastest players on that team. He's starting to tap into that skill set now a little bit more as well. The strikeouts are a little bit high, but they're still under 30%, which is manageable for what he's able to do.
James Allen would take that.
Oh, absolutely, yes. And so there's a lot of skill set that he's able to work with. It is still, I think, there's still more that he can tap into. The exit velos, a lot of the underlying data that we don't have access to, is really, really solid for a player like a Damon Keith, to where that can intrigue some teams. The limited playing time that he had in 2024 could inhibit some teams from taking a chance on him in 2025.
Here's his arm right here. Here's his arm.
Yes. Especially because he didn't have a chance to play for Oklahoma City last year, but he's good, really good athlete. You can see that throw right there. Got the assist. Damon Keith, DK, I think has a really good future, really bright future ahead for him. And when he was on the field, really, really solid 2024 season. And that's not including, it seemed like for a stretch there, every other night was a walk-off hit for a DK.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And he does stuff like this. Like there's Henny, by the way. That's that guy you just saw. Let me back that up. This manager right here, that DK gives a low 5-2. Let me back that up right here. Right there. That's Henny. That's your new AAA manager in AAA Oklahoma City. Damon Keith does stuff like this. He'll hit a home run, and then the next inning, he'll do this right here. This is in back-to-back innings. So in the bottom of one inning, he hit the home run, and in the top of the next inning, he did that right there. So that was a heck of a lot of fun. And then right here, I want to show you this home run. Watch this. Ka-pow. Wow. He is so good at when he stays behind the ball at just lifting the ball. I mean, you don't even see the ball in it. I mean, you don't see it. I mean, it's like, and I can tell you Dennis Higgins, who's been doing it a long time, he's the play-by-play voice for Tulsa. He has said more than once that him and Jose Ramos hit the ball as far as he's ever seen anybody hit it in Tulsa. So that home run's impressive, but hold on. We're going to watch him do his little home run dance. Watch this right here. Even more impressive. That right there looks like you got fisted, right? Doesn't look like you got all of it. Let me back that up right here. Okay, you're going to see this again. Watch this single. He gets in on him. He inside-outside pitch, 105 miles an hour. He just inside-outed a pitch to right field, 105 miles an hour. That's not something that most people can do. So when you take that kind of strength, that's a guy in Damon Keith that you definitely keep your eye on.
Yes, I think that's absolutely right. He's going to be fun to continue to watch, assuming that he's in this system. He's going to be one of those guys that every single Dodgers fan needs to circle if the Dodgers are lucky enough to have him part of the system in 2025, meaning that he's not taking the Rule 5 draft. He's one of those guys with as much tools that he has. Watch him in 2025, and I think he's going to be hitting a lot of home runs and doing a lot of exciting stuff for hopefully the Oklahoma City Comets.
Yeah, Oklahoma City Comets. There you go. Okay. Who's the next guy we're going to head to here?
All right, so now we're going to transition a little bit onto the pitching side as far as the options that are available pitching. I'm just going to run through the entire list that I have available, or at least guys that I think have at least a very small chance of or at least we should know about, including some guy that I hear is going to be on Dodgers Dawgs, is going to be interviewed coming up pretty soon.
Yeah.
A guy who I talked to when he was with Great Lakes, and he told me on one occasion that, hey, it smells like winning here. Yeah.
Oh, that got brought up in the interview. That story did. Yeah. It's coming out Monday at noon.
Yeah, which, by the way, Casey, and then this is a good chance to since we have a little bit of break. Player interviews are phenomenal.
Thank you.
We have a lot of fun doing these live shows.
We do.
Nothing is better and nothing compares to actually hearing from the players and the people within the organization. Those are incredibly well done. That is what we're most proud of. Go check those out.
By the way, I got Choy, I got Jacob Metter, I got about 5 or 6 different guys coming up.
Good.
I got a big one too. I just got a text message from Billy Gasparino, Director of Player Development. So I'm going to talk to Billy next week. Billy actually went to OSU. He played at OSU in the late 90s. He actually got to play in the Bricktown Ballpark the first year it was opened in the Big 12 tournament. So I am super pumped to talk to Billy Gasparino. We'll release that interview next week. Then we're going to get into all of our manager interviews so they can break down all the players and all that kind of stuff. So, all right, let's go into some of your pitchers that you think are most likely, Austin.
All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the entire list, and then we'll go ahead and pinpoint different guys that we have in mind. So the list that I have for the pitchers that I just wrote down, guy that was already mentioned on the show, Logan Boyer. Another guy who has an interview coming up, I believe, on Monday. Choy, the Maytag, Jack Dreyer, Rule 5 eligible. Carlos Duran, also Rule 5 eligible. Alec Gamboa, a guy that we've been advocate for years now. Ben Harris, another talented left-handed relief pitcher. Hobbsy, Michael Hobbs. Antonio Knowles, a good friend of the show. Jack Little as well. Orlando Ortiz-Meyer. Kelvin Ramirez, who's with Great Lakes last season.
Watch out for him.
Rodriguez, we'll get into him in just a little bit. Jermaine Rosario, which I will just mention, I believe MLB Pipeline just did a tweet about him maybe a day or two ago, had a really good outing in the Arizona Fall League.
He has them.
I think went unnoticed by a lot of people. Important to keep in mind, Jermaine Rosario.
He has those great outings. It's just consistency for him.
Yes. But what he was able to do in Arizona Fall League, 3 innings, 7 strikeouts.
Yeah.
He has those spurts where he's able to go out there and be really effective. And he's one of these guys that can provide a little bit of length. I'm just going through the entire list right now. We'll come back to him a little bit later. Also, Christian Suarez, another one of those guys that's going to be eligible, and Ryan Sublette. So those are our list right now of pitchers to keep in mind that are going to be eligible for the Rule 5 draft. Casey, any one of those guys that you want to go ahead and get started with, I'll run through that list one more time. Boyer, Choy, Dreyer, Duran, Gamboa, Harris, Hobbs, Knowles, Little, Ortiz Meyer, Ramirez, Rodriguez, Rosario, Suarez, and Sublette.
I don't have any inside information, and I wouldn't ask even if I did. But I can tell you, if I was the one making the decisions, that this young man right here, the Maytag, Jack Dreyer, would be the first player that I protect. No doubt about it. This guy is special. He's elite, and I don't know how many different ways. And he's about 94, 95 right now. He thinks eventually he'll sit at 96. But this is a young man that is from Johnston, Iowa. He set an all-time Iowa High School Activities Association record in a state championship game with 13 strikeouts. His dad, Steve Dreyer, actually played for the Oklahoma City 89ers. My hat right here. He played on one of the very last teams that were called the Oklahoma City 89ers, because as soon as they moved to Bricktown in 1998, they changed their name to the Red Hawks. So his dad, Steve Dreyer, may have played on the very last Oklahoma City 89ers team, and he actually pitched in the major leagues. And I believe, I always get this story wrong, I think he was, he pitched after Nolan Ryan, so, something after a strike. I can't remember the exact story behind it, but he came in after Nolan Ryan for the Rangers, so he pitched at the major league level. So this is a young man in Jack Dreyer that will pitch in the major leagues. This is a young man in Jack Dreyer that will be a fantastic pitcher at the major league level. And this is a young man that continues to get better. So why maybe haven't you heard more of him? Well, that's because he had Tommy John surgery in 2019. Actually, in 2019, he had a separate injury, and then 2020. So he had to stop his career in Iowa over, I can't remember the exact injury. And then 2020, you have COVID. 2021, he has Tommy John. So basically, when he started pitching, not this last season, but in 2023, when he burst onto the scene at Great Lakes, he had not pitched in live games much at all since his freshman year at Iowa. And so, I mean, you couldn't tell. I mean, it was just like, wow. I mean, so the competitive element to this young man is insane. The composure to this young man is insane. The stuff is absolutely fantastic. That slider that you saw right there is awesome. The way that he's able to dot his fastball. And then beyond all that, Austin, he's one of the smartest human beings, one of the most analytical human beings that I have ever seen in my life. And he already knows how he wants to set a hitter up 2 or 3 batters ahead. So this guy has everything it takes to be a great major leaguer. Obviously, we can't guarantee anything. But again, if it was up to me, this is not even in question. It is a slam dunk that the Maytag, Jack Dreyer, get protected.
I think you're absolutely right. I'm surprised you didn't throw in the Rubik's Cube element of Jack Dreyer.
I've given that one out enough. And he plays chess, by the way. He's the best chess player in the entire system.
He's incredibly intelligent. He's smart. What he's able to do on the baseball field, using that skill set and using the gifts that God was able to give him, just is absolutely amazing. His run in 2023, which I don't know if you have any footage from 2023 and what he was able to do when he was striking out the Dayton Dragons in a very competitive rivalry type game, or when he was closing out the Midwest League East Division round against the Fort Wayne Tin Caps, or when he went back to Iowa to pitch in front of his family in the Midwest League Championship, to what he did last season, which last season, especially his April through August, right up until about the last month, which there was just a couple of outings that were a little bit rougher towards the end, numbers wise, was absolutely insane. His entire cumulative season, keeping in mind some of the rougher outings that he had later in the season, 2.20 ERA combined between Tulsa and Oklahoma City, which he had about 10 outings in Tulsa before they were like, yeah, we got to move this guy to Oklahoma City immediately. 2.20 ERA, a 2.75 FIP, a 3.42 xFIP. One of the more impressive numbers, though, is his 26.4 strikeouts minus walk percentage. That just take your strikeout percentage, subtract it from your walk percentage. That was best in the Dodgers organization last year for pitchers who pitched 40 innings or more. Just absolutely insane with what he's able to do. Struck out about 32% of hitters, but walked about 5%. Just absolutely phenomenal. Jack Dreyer is competitive. Jack Dreyer can be relied upon in those key clutch moment type of games. And another aspect, and this is something that's so incredibly important to remember, especially when the Dodgers are targeting pitchers, they also have to keep in mind guys that have minor league options and the ability to maneuver and go back and forth between them. One of the advantages of taking a reliever or a starting pitcher, as much and as frustrating as much as I want to see these guys at the big league level, some of the business side that the Dodgers have to keep in mind is they can't sign 20 or 12 relief pitchers on free agency, because then they would all have to be on the major league roster. A lot of the pitchers on the Dodgers currently don't have any minor league options, which means you need to supplement that with guys that are equally as talented but have the ability to come up when there's injuries, which there will be injuries and opportunities on the pitching side. I think that is an added element in the favor of taking somebody like a Jack Dreyer, who you talk to anybody within this organization, they will go over the top and out of their way to tell you how incredible of a pitcher Jack Dreyer is, how smart he is, what his abilities are. And I think all of that, all the hard work is going to translate to him being a major league pitcher. Whether the Dodgers find room or prioritize keeping him on the roster or another team does, some team's going to be lucky because they got one of the better pitching prospects in the game of baseball coming up, intelligence-wise, ability-wise, production-wise. The Maytag Jack Dreyer is that.
Yeah, if the Dodgers don't protect him, which I'd be surprised if they don't, he will get selected in the Rule 5 draft. I would be shocked if he did not. I mean, just the way that he showed, his transitions from Great Lakes to Tulsa to Oklahoma City, he just showed that nothing ever affected him. He just continued to pitch the exact same way at the next level as he did the level before, which tells you just how his stuff plays against professional hitters. So who's the next guy you want to talk about, Austin?
Yeah, so Jack Dreyer is one of those guys that definitely needs to keep in mind. We'll kind of go through some of these lists, and I'll let you go ahead and actually stop me whenever you actually well, you know what? We'll bring this out because we'll talk about one of the guys that I want to talk about, and one guy that I think is one of the more underrated cases to be made to be selected and be part of this Dodgers team to be selected from the Rule 5 draft. And I've mentioned this a little bit before, and there might be some hesitation from some people because of where he finished or looking at some of his numbers that he had. I think there's an incredibly compelling case for the Dodgers to be able to select and protect Jose Rodriguez.
Who you're seeing here, yeah.
Yes, this is the player that you're seeing here right now. And let me tell you, and I can do a little bit more research and I can present this probably on the show that I'll likely do on Monday, has to do with one statistic that I think is overwhelming, and you combine that with the full picture, overwhelming in the case that he's able to do this well beyond just about anybody at the minor league level is. And that has to do with his ability to get swing and misses, as you saw right there.
The swing and strike is incredible.
Yes, his swinging strike percentage, which takes the number of swings and misses that he generates, divides that by the number of pitches that he throws, not the number of swings that a player swings at, but the number of pitches that he throws. Last season, combined with his total in Rancho Cucamonga, which he had about a 5 ERA in Rancho. And yes, I am advocating for the Dodgers to protect somebody who had a 5 ERA in Rancho last season, got significantly better in Great Lakes. Last season, Jose Rodriguez had a 19.5% swinging strike percentage. And this is over the course of about 90 innings. This is a guy who pitches in bulk. He's able to get multiple innings, whether that's from the starter or whether that's to come in a piggyback role. And given that he's able to go in bulk, he had a higher swinging strike percentage than Edgardo Henriquez by 1.1%. Edgardo had 18.4. He jumped up from Rancho to the big leagues. Jose Rodriguez was even better than that. I think the skill set that he's able to provide with this swing and miss type stuff, combine that with a couple of different factors. One, we saw last year with a guy like Justin Robleski, went from 2023 ending his season in Great Lakes to July pitching in Los Angeles, which means I think the timeline for a lot of these guys, especially if you're incredibly talented moving up to the next level, there's not a whole lot of time that in order for there to be room or the talent is there. I think with Jose Rodriguez, with his ability to draw swing and miss, I think you could potentially see him making jumps quickly, especially if the swing and miss continues as he gets to the next level, as he gets to Tulsa. You could see him jump quickly through this organization. You also combine that with the factor of, man, the Dodgers are very seriously thinking about and likely to implement a 6-man rotation.
Yeah.
If that is the case, you need guys out of the bullpen who can provide length. And what better to do that than to have guys out of your bullpen eventually that are going to be able to provide length and get the swing and miss type stuff that you can get from a lot of high leverage type relievers. I think that works in Jose Rodriguez's case. And I think if you look at the rarity, especially if somebody who pitches 70 or more innings at the minor league level and gets the level of swing and miss that he does, this does not happen very often. I will have more on that on the show probably on Monday and just show you how incredibly rare of swing and miss tough that is. A lot of teams aren't looking necessarily exclusively at the production at the minor league level, but they're looking for some of those predictive statistics that will translate to the major league level. If you're generating swing and misses at 20% of your pitches, that is something that major league teams can work with. I think there is an underrated case for a Jose Rodriguez, which we have seen guys taking in the Rule 5 draft from the high A level and then go on to stay with an organization. Not all the time. I don't remember exactly who it is. I remember like an Akil Baddoo.
Very often.
I can remember like Akil Baddoo on the offensive side made the jump from high A all the way to the big leagues for the Tigers. There's been some other guys, a lot of guys from Double A make that call up. But I think and I think if you see from this timeline with Jose Rodriguez, just how quickly that he could make that jump, how we've seen that at the production from the minor league level, I think there's a very underrated case that the Dodgers could really use an arm like this. It's incredibly talented. There's a lot of numbers to back it up. He's one of these guys that don't sleep on if the Dodgers protect him.
Yeah, I don't disagree with all the stuff you're saying about Jose Rodriguez. As far as his potential, what he could do in the organization, moving forward, how I'm sure excited the Dodgers are about Jose Rodriguez, but he finished in Great Lakes. And yes, he has great swing and miss, but just go to all my interviews, and almost all these players will tell you the jump to Double A is huge.
It's a big one, yeah.
I mean, it's an absolutely huge one. And so can you imagine the jump from high A? I mean, he was in Rancho Cucamonga to start last year, and he pitched a grand total of, he pitched 56 innings, so it was fairly even. He pitched actually more at Great Lakes than he did Rancho. So to say that you have a guy that finished in high A Great Lakes, yes, he has great swing and miss stuff. But to put him on now, if this was a 40-man situation, like I think there's a better case like the Dodgers protect this guy than somebody else picking him up in the Rule 5 because you're talking about a 40-man versus a 26 spot. But as good as he is, as much as the Dodgers, I'm sure, are excited about all the things that you talked about, I just couldn't imagine anybody from high A Great Lakes getting protected as far as pitchers go with all the pitchers the Dodgers have in the system. And I would see it less likely that anybody would take him and put him on their 26 for the whole year.
It is a very big gamble to say, hey, let's go ahead and leave. It is a likely gamble that a team probably would not take him for the reason that you outlined, making that jump from Great Lakes to the big leagues. I think it is likely that other organizations would say, hey, that's probably too high of a jump. But don't underestimate some teams, especially teams that are not competitive, finding ways to stash guys onto their major league club and be able to utilize them in low leverage situations and be able to call them up, especially if they identify guys that have talent, that guys that have the ability to draw a lot of swing and miss. I think we've seen, even if we talk about when Jose Hernandez got taken in the Rule 5 draft,
he's at least a couple
of years ago. He had some time at Double-A, but he spent a lot of that season beforehand in Great Lakes and got a little bit of his foot in the water, maybe about half a season or so in Tulsa. I know Jose Rodriguez doesn't have that half of a season in Tulsa, but there's a lot of reason to be excited about him. And I know other organizations are not blind to the statistics that I'm seeing and how rare it is for a pitcher to have that. And I think there is a small possibility that some team would look at that and say, hey, we're going to take a chance on this, even if it means we're going to sacrifice one of the roster spots that we have for it.
Yeah, the difficult part of it is the reason why the Rule 5 draft, really, if you look historically, I mean, there's been some people that have helped some major league rosters throughout the years, but it's typically speaking not really much of an impact to teams' overall rosters when you look at the roster they have going into a playoff and the production they get, this and that. So the Rule 5 is fun to talk about. Typically speaking, though, it's not super impactful for teams moving forward. And the reason is if the team that you're with that sees you play every single day, right? If they're not willing to put you on their 40-man roster, then why should another team that doesn't get to see you play every day, why should they commit to you for their 26? That's just such a leap of faith, and you have to have. So you're saying that your advanced scouts are so much better than the Dodgers that they're not even willing to put them on the 40-man and let them play minor league baseball, but you're going to be willing to put them on the 26 and have them play Major League Baseball. It doesn't happen very often, and even when it does, it's usually not super successful. I mean, it's usually like a Ryan Noda type deal. As good as Ryan Noda was, I mean, he hasn't been great at the major league level. Gus Varland hasn't been great at the major league level. Jose Hernandez is already back with the Dodgers, right? And so, I mean, it's one of those deals to where it's fun to talk about, but it's really tough to actually find guys that will make an impact on your major league roster. And I think that's what you're talking about here. So having said that, if you are a team that's not going to make the playoffs this year, then go look for a guy that you put on your 26-man roster. You don't have to win next year anyways. And maybe 2 or 3 years from down the line, he is that impactful guy. I think that's what you're trying to say.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it. There's typically about 15 to 20, maybe about 15 to 20 players in Major League Baseball that are selected in this Rule 5 draft. Yeah. So even with that, there's still limited opportunities because you have to keep them on the Major League roster throughout this entire season. But that doesn't mean that there isn't a lot of talent that is available for these teams to be able to do that. Jose Rodriguez, while it is a little bit of a it would be difficult to be able to stash him on your major league roster for the entire season. I think a lot of clubs would love the raw tools that Jose Rodriguez would have. And if they're able to find a way to keep him on the 40-man roster for the entire season, they don't have to keep him on the major league roster through the 2025 season.
Right.
They don't have to keep him on the major league roster in 2026, which case they can go ahead and continue to develop him further. Right. So, and that's the case with any of these other guys, which we've still got a lot of talented pitchers that are available for the Rule 5 draft that are on the list as well.
Who else you want to go to next?
Let's just go through. I'll just go ahead and read through the list right there. Go ahead and stop me as far as different players that you're like, yes, let's go ahead and talk about him. Logan Boyer, one of the another talented prospect.
Let's stop and talk about him.
Absolutely. Go ahead and talk about Logan Boyer for a little bit, Casey.
Yeah,
let's hear.
I don't think he's going to get taken, but Logan Boyer he actually went to high school with Cody Bellinger there in Arizona. This is a guy that's been injured, and he got injured again last year, so I don't think he's going to get taken in the Rule 5 draft. But I do want to stop. He would be a guy I would take. There wouldn't be. I don't. He's not going to get protected because the Dodgers have so many great arms. This is a guy that can throw at 100 miles an hour. He was a big-time catcher coming out of high school. Went to San Diego State. Actually played with Alan Trejo there at San Diego State. Got off to a great. So he'd been injured for like the last 2 or 3 years. Just can't stay healthy. Came out in a bang with Tulsa. I got to interview him. I was super excited about it because he was really hot at the time, then got injured again. So really the key for Logan Boyer, I mean, he definitely has major league stuff. It's just staying healthy. So this guy is the type of guy that would be the under the radar, really? Sleeper type guy, because he definitely is a major league reliever that hasn't been able to stay healthy. And here's the deal. You can get around that 26-man roster deal by saying, okay, well, he's not healthy, right? You just put him on the shelf, and then you can put somebody else on the 26. So to be honest with you, I would not be totally shocked if Logan Boyer got taken in the Rule 5, because I think teams could see that injured past, and they could see a way out of that 26-man roster if they ever need it.
Yes, I think there is that opportunity now. I think there's a certain threshold. I don't remember exactly what it is, to where you'd have to keep him on the major league roster a little bit into the following season. I don't know if that's half a season, especially if you can't just take one of these guys entire season on the injured list and then not play him on the major league roster. I think you have to play him on the major league roster at least for a little bit. But this is one of those cases to where a team can kind of go back and forth, especially given his history. Played 2021 in Great Lakes, and I remember seeing him pitch a little bit in Great Lakes, 28 games, 24 starts that he had. And they're one of those shorter starts, one of those especially piggyback type starts. Given the 2020 season, there is no minor league baseball. They did that with a lot of pitchers that season, like a Clayton Beater or Bobby Miller, got some of those 1 to 2, maybe 3 innings if we're lucky type of starts, but then did not pitch in the organization in 2022 or 2023.
Right.
Came onto the scene for Tulsa last season, a 1.67 ERA in 27 innings, with a strikeout percentage that was really solid for him at about 31%.
Cutter's legit.
Oh, it's the stuff. Absolutely is there. Is he going to be able to stay on the field enough to be a professional big league pitcher?
But I think that helps him in the Rule 5, because, again, that gives them a way to not have him on the 26th the whole year, right?
I think that's absolutely right. So this is one of those guys that I wouldn't envision, because of the injury concerns, the Dodgers protecting. I think they've got a lot of really talented arms, but I think another organization could see that a little bit as an advantage to them. To be able to get a guy with as much talent as a Logan Boyer has, while being able to find ways to be able to open up a roster spot if needed. And given the injury history, there's a very good possibility that could happen throughout the season. I wish Logan Boyer all the best for a healthy season, so I hope that doesn't happen, because I hope he's on the field through the entire 2025 season. Just given the history, I think that could be a possibility that teams keep in mind.
Yeah, I totally agree. So let's go through some more of the pitchers here, and I'll stop you whenever. All right, we go to the next one.
I don't know if we should talk about him, because I think the interview is coming up on Monday, so I think you should check out the interview. Choy, You're going to hear from him coming up soon, right before the Dodgers are going to have to decide whether to protect him or any of these other guys. The deadline is Tuesday. So you're going to hear from him on Monday. And
I didn't ask about it. I never ask about business stuff like that.
No. He gets to talk about his pitch mix and where he's at. It's going to be a really good professional interview with him, and he's a really cool guy. So Hangul Choy is one of these guys to keep in mind. You also have on the list, I'll roll through a couple of these names in case he can go over whichever ones that he wants to. We'll go ahead and stop. Carlos Duran is another one to keep in mind.
Yeah, let's talk about him.
Absolutely.
We need to talk about him. I mean, he had a really good year last year, and he got all the way. He is the Jose Hernandez, man. He got to Double-A, right? I mean, and he showed success at Double-A. Give his numbers at Double-A level.
Yeah, so at the Double-A level, with what Carlos Duran was able to do, he had 11 games with 11 starts, so he was starting each one of those games that he had. 3.05 ERA, 3.72 FIP, 3.74 expected FIP, with a strikeout percentage at Double-A at about 27%.
I think his injury passed. He had the Tommy John surgery. He came off it last year. He got a late start last year, too. I think the injured past keeps the Dodgers from putting him on the 40-man because it's hard to justify putting a guy at the Double-A level on the 40-man that has not proven that he can stay healthy. That's the Logan Boyer thing. But then also, he would be very attractive if I'm like the Pittsburgh Pirates, because then again, this is a dude that's 6'6". This is a dude with an elite slider. This is a dude with a really nice changeup that can throw it upwards to 96 miles an hour. He has different arm slots. He has different tempos to his leg kicks, and he's got a lot of potential, right? And then also he's a guy that's always been injured. So just like Logan Boyer, he's also a guy that likely at some point of the year next year, see how he changed his arm slot right there? He is going to go on the IL again, like he always has. And so that gives you a natural way to get somebody else on the 26 where he's not on it the entire season. So I think the injured past, I think that keeps him off of the Dodgers 40-man. I think that makes him attractive on the 26 for another team.
Yes, I would agree with that. He's also still only 23 years old.
Right.
He's been in this organization for quite a while, but he's still incredibly young. He's gone through the Tommy John surgery, which means he has the ability. He's got that on his history, which a lot of teams could potentially see as being a little bit of an advantage, seeing that he got that out of the way. He's got a lot of talent, and all the pitches move incredibly well, and he's able to get a lot of hitters out. It's really impressive what he's able to do, and I think a lot of teams are going to take it for his very serious consideration. Carlos Duran.
Hold on, watch this. Cutter?
Yeah.
Okay, right here. Cutter. This is nice. Cutter. That one backed up on him a little bit. Cutter. Now, watch out when he gets 2 strikes. Watch him add slider. Wow, that's a nice sequence right there, isn't it? I mean, from a guy who's 6'6", that's nice. I like that Noodler's hat too, by the way.
I know. Sweet. I'm gonna have to give me one of those.
Yeah. So what is your prediction for Carlos Duran? 40-man or no?
I'm going to say probably not from the Dodgers, just given the limitations that he has. Somebody who's similar with the Logan Boyer type of category as far as other teams considering him and potentially trying to maneuver around some of the rules with the Rule 5 draft to try to keep him on the roster. It would be an interesting case to make for other organizations to keep him in mind.
We got to talk about him, though, Austin, when we have to. Yunil Choy, I mean, this is the 2021 minor league pitcher of the year. This is a guy. Now, he's only about 92. He's more of a sinker guy than he is a four-seam. So he moves the ball more. See that right there? He moves it in and tries to create weak contact. He has the changeup. He likes the changeup sinker tunnels because he's a big pronator. You're going to hear this coming up Monday. He likes to turn the ball right. But he does have a little cutter and a slider. His slider looks a lot more like a curveball than he does a slider. So he lists it as a slider and doesn't necessarily list it as a curveball, but he can get a little bit more tumble to it to give it more of a curveball type of look. So Yunil Choy is see how he turned that ball right there. Very talented young man. He bounced back and forth between Double and AAA, and I usually don't ride the fence, but I have no idea what's going to happen with this guy. I don't know if the Dodgers are going to protect him. And if they don't, I have no idea if another team's going to take him or not. I think probably my gut would say no, but boy, that's not a very strong. I'm not very confident in either one of those.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. You got to get up for what Choy was able to do last season, because there is a lot of times when Oklahoma City needed an additional starting pitcher, especially early in the season when it seemed like there was a lot of injuries that were happening to the Dodgers staff and they had to bring guys up. That happens, and you talk a lot about with the Dodgers and the guys that are called up and they're able to step up at the big league level. That has ramifications for the minor league level, and a guy like Choy was able to step up and continually, each and every single time, go out there and give solid performances for Oklahoma City. He's my gut is kind of all over the place on him as far as what the Dodgers are going to be able to do. He's a lot of fun to be able to watch. He's not going to overpower you.
He's only 92.
With his
that's
stuff.
the problem. Yeah.
But he's able to find ways to get hitters out in unique and creative ways. And you talk about the terminology that he's going through. He knows his stuff. He knows what his strengths are and what he's able to do. Cool, and he's confident in what he's able to do. He's incredibly talented pitcher, been bounced around a lot last season. I would guess probably not the Dodgers protecting him, and then it's a question of will another organization take a chance on him. He's going to be a really fun person to watch in the interview coming up on Monday here in Dodgers Daily. Definitely check it out.
He's a guy that if you could just bring him up and down and option him, you know, like if this Rule 5 had the ability to option these guys back down, right?
Yes.
Like a normal guy can't. I think he'd be a slam dunk.
Oh,
but just to say you're going to take him and put him under 26 and he's going to be one of your 5 starters, that's a pretty big leap considering he had the strain, and you'll hear all about it Monday. But I like I said, I'm a lean on a no, but that is a very, very, very weak lean on my part. So keep going with some more of the pitchers, Austin.
All right, we'll probably go through just about most of these guys. The next guy alphabetically on my list, guy we talked about a lot last year during the process of the Rule 5 draft, Alec Gamboa. Yeah. So he was.
If the Dodgers were going to protect him, this is Alec right here. I mean, if they were going to protect this guy, wouldn't they have brought him up last year at some point? That's kind of my point. Who was that we were talking about earlier with Cody Hoese? I mean, if the Dodgers, if he was part of their plan, right? I mean, Justin Robleski went right past him. Ben Kasparius went right past him. Landon Knack went right past him, right? I mean, you would have to. I'll just say this: from the way that the Dodgers handled him last year, treated him's the wrong word. It would suggest they're not going to protect him. I mean, why would they protect him now when they wouldn't even bring him up and at all? I mean, ever. And they were bringing up Ben Kasparius and guys like that. So, I mean, I just think from what the Dodgers have done in the past with him, would say no. Now, if I was another team, I would take him in a heartbeat. What the Dodgers did with him and John Rooney, they were both starters. They moved him to the bullpen. I didn't ever like Alec Gamboa in the bullpen. I think they thought they could move his 96-mile-an-hour fastball up to 98, 99, 100. He did reach 99 in Sacramento one day, but that's back in his home state, and he is pretty jazzed up. But he's a 94 to 96 guy. They didn't really see the bump up to 98, 99 out of the pen, and I think he is way, way, way better as a starter. I think he could be a Jesus Luzardo. I think he could be the next Jesus Luzardo type pitcher. I would take him personally, and I love Alec Gamboa. I've talked to him several different times. Never interviewed him. I don't think he likes going in front of the camera, but I've never interviewed him. But if I was a Miami Marlins team, I would not even hesitate. Alec Gamboa would be a slam dunk for me.
He's due for his time at the major league level. And I think a lot of the history with what the Dodgers did last season, we were talking about last season, you got to give both him and John Rooney a chance at the big league level during the 2024 season.
Nope.
That did not happen at all last season. And that's not due to the production that Alec Gamboa was able to have. He bounced around between a reliever and a starter about half of his time in the bullpen, half of his time at the starting pitcher. And he put up a 3.3 ERA in a very hitters-friendly Pacific Coast League. I think that's important to remember because
he plays in Oklahoma City. So, I mean, his starts at home aren't in those locations.
Yes.
Part of that PCL being hitter friendly is because of Albuquerque and Salt Lake City and Sacramento and Las Vegas and Reno and those places. He did pitch at Oklahoma City, which is not one of those high elevation places. So that gives him an advantage from a pitching perspective.
It gives him an advantage, but he still has to go out there and pitch in those environments when Oklahoma City does go to those environments. And even just with a traditional 3.3 ERA, you'd be very happy with the results that he was able to go out there. He's due for his time at the major league level. I think that given the Dodgers' history and what they've shown, I think it is unlikely that he's going to get the opportunity, or at least get the first opportunity with the Dodgers organization. I think that just with what's gone on with him, I think I'm curious to see what would happen in the Rule 5 draft type of setting. I think he's got a lot of options that he has, and I hope that he gets whatever path gets him to the big leagues with the best opportunity, the fastest. That's what I'm rooting for with Alec Gamboa, because I think his arm is too talented to stay forever in Oklahoma City.
He is a diehard Dodgers fan. He grew up in Fresno, and I'm telling you, I mean, the matter of fact, what got him noticed by the Dodgers is they invited him to a workout at Dodger Stadium, and he just killed it. He did great, and that's actually where he got his offer to sign with the Dodgers. So his family are all diehard Dodgers fans. They're wonderful people. So they would be crushed if he got picked up by somebody else, until they went, oh, damn, he's in the major leagues now. They wouldn't be crushed for long. Once they saw that first paycheck and saw their baby in pitching ground on a major league mound, that goes away real fast, right? And so the best case scenario for Alec Gamboa, in my opinion, is to not get protected, get picked up in the Rule 5, go somewhere like Pittsburgh and absolutely kill it, and then sign your first contract with the Dodgers. That would be absolute nirvana if you're the Alec Gamboa situation. So, all right, that's Alec Gamboa. Let's keep moving on, Austin.
All right, the next guy alphabetically that was on the list, one of these guys that, man, if this guy could just throw consistent strikes, he would have unhittable stuff. Ben Harris. He's one of those guys, man. It's just frustrating to some of these guys, but his stuff is absolutely unbelievable. I talk about it quite a bit when I talk about Ben Harris. Fangraphs did an article because in 2022 he had one of the most incredible seasons at the minor league level with what he was able to do with his strikeout percentage. He was like
throwing into the invisible ball.
What he was doing. And he was high, like at 2022 at Rancho, his strikeout percentage at Rancho was 46%. Then moved up to Great Lakes, it was 44%. Unbelievable with what he's able to do. If he could just keep it in the strike zone more and more and more, his swing and miss stuff would be absolutely unbelievable. But that has been the thing that's been holding him back the past couple of seasons. What could deter some teams from taking him in the Rule 5 draft? This stuff is unbelievable. Got to throw a little bit more consistent strikes.
Yeah, he's not going to get protected. And then I don't think, see that pitch right there? That's just, and in the way he hides the ball.
Yes.
And I don't think he's going to get picked up in the Rule 5 draft just because of the control issues. And I think that might end up being a good thing on both ends, because I think the Dodgers get to keep working with him and he keeps getting better and better and better. And we know at some point that whenever Ben Harris starts throwing strikes consistently, he will turn into Jack Dreyer, which is the goal for him, and hey, there's Dalton Rushing there, by the way. Hey, and I talked to Jacob Metter. Jacob Metter goes on about Dalton Rushing in our interview I'm going to release next week. It was pretty fun. But, yeah, Ben Harris is very compelling, but I would be a no on both ends of that. Again, he's very talented. He would strike out his mother, right? So if either one of them turned out to be a yes, it wouldn't be like, oh, wow. Like neither one of us were surprised when Jose Hernandez or Gus Varland got taken. So, but it's one of those, that's kind of where I'm at. This show is for us to give our opinion, and that's where our opinion would be.
He is one key away, though, from being something really, really special. And I think that's what excites me most about him. Is if the Dodgers are able to unlock that one key, which I don't think it means that he's going to be protected from the Dodgers just because of the limitations and because he would be one of those options that would be towards the front of the line to be called up to the major leagues. And I don't think he's quite there right yet.
Right.
They were able to unlock this one key of being able to throw more consistent strikes. Watch out with this guy.
But the Dodgers are great, like with developing stuff, increasing velo, developing a new pitch. They're not always like that much better than everybody else, figuring out how to get guys to throw more strikes. Matter of fact, usually it's the opposite because they're tinkering with this or that, and they're trying to get you to throw harder, and they're trying to get you to get guys to swing and miss more. So that's not really the Dodgers' sweet spot in terms of training a guy with further training to get him more in the strike zone. So that would be my concern there. So all right,
and I think that just has to do with some of the type of pitchers that the Dodgers target. They look for that stuff over the command, and they think they can kind of work with them.
Like a Patrick Copen.
If that clicks, they're able to get a phenomenal pitcher with some really nasty stuff. And that leads to the next guy that we're going to be talking about who's got that. I think it looks like a breaking ball, but I'm pretty sure it's a slider. Hobbsy, Michael Hobbs, with what he's able to do, go out there with the mustache. And
you know how he puts it?
Yeah, look,
it is definitely a slider.
Yes.
But the way that he will put it, it's depthy.
Yes.
It's depthy.
Yes.
Is that a word? DEPHTHY? Is that a word?
It is for me. Depthy? It is for me now. Yes,
it is for Michael Hobbs.
Yes,
handlebars there.
And it's if you have not had the chance to see that pitch live and in person, especially behind home plate and behind the side, woo! That's an impressive pitch to be able to watch with what he's able to do. And he's continued to put up some really good numbers. Last year, spent the entire season in Double-A, had a 2.97 ERA throughout his season with Double-A Tulsa. He's been out there and he's pitched incredibly impressively. He's a fun guy to be able to watch on the mound.
Whoop. Man, that's a good pitch.
Oh, I know, and he goes all out just about every single pitch too.
He's max effort, no doubt. Woo! Look at that pitch. All-time saves leader at St. Mary. Oh, right there, man. And the way he's able to manipulate it, he's able to make it bigger, smaller, inside, outside, strike one, strike three. He's got every different shape with it. It's just his slider's elite, no doubt. But, again, just so much depth in the Dodgers system. He's not 100 miles an hour. He's not going to get protected, you wouldn't think. And I wouldn't think being a 94, not like Jordan Leisure, like he got taken because he had 7-foot extension and was throwing the ball 99 miles an hour, right? There's some metrics there why you go. Now, he wasn't taking the Rule 5, but he's a guy that people go, whoa, why would another team, that kind of deal. He's not the guy that's going to hit the metrics like that. So I think it would be definitely a surprise if he was protected or taken.
Yeah, I think that's very likely the case for Hobbsy, but does not mean that he isn't incredibly talented and given more time to work within this organization. There's a lot of people that are really excited about Hobbsy within this organization. They speak so incredibly highly of him. And I just remember what he was able to do. The biggest game that I remember him pitching in was that Game 2 against Fort Wayne in the Eastern Division Finals Midwest League playoffs, and he went out there in crucial situations, high leverage situations, and exceeded beyond. He was so much fun to be able to watch and so incredibly impressive. He's a really good pitcher within this organization.
It's either that one. What colored uniform they have on that night?
Oh, they had it was their home uniforms because it was at home game.
Performance right here.
Yeah, it's this one right here. Yeah. 1-run game, 9th inning. If the Loons lose this game, they're eliminated from playoffs and they're going home.
You're getting too fired up, Austin.
he gets fired up too, and it's funny being able to watch some of the people in the crowd because I know a lot of those people and they get fired up for him too with what he's able to do. That's a nice catch right there, Bubba. And the next guy that he gets out when he strikes him out, you're going to see the excitement and the electricity that Michael Hobbs is able to bring onto the field.
Michael Hobbs competes his ass off, man. Woo! He loves the showtime, He loves the big moments.
Oh,
he loves the adrenaline. I mean, he's just.
Oh
awesome
no, that was swing. That was the check swing right there, right before. You're gonna see it on this next pitch coming up.
If you talk shit to Michael Hobbs, you out because you just put a challenge to him, and that right there is gonna happen. I love Michael Hobbs. He is so fun to watch pitch.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's a fun one.
Okay, so let's keep moving on.
All right, next one we got on the list, Antonio Knowles.
Yeah,
really good
spin doctor.
Oh yeah. Oh, you talk about one of those pitches that he's got. Oh, it's electric what he's able to do, and he can generate my favorite pitches within the organization, as with Casey's too.
Yeah, absolutely. They call him the spin doctor because of his incredible slider. I mean, his slider is awesome. So what he did last year, right there, you saw that pitch. Let me back that up. What he did last year, he threw this mostly to righties. But watch this two seam. See how that's moving away? That's been his counter to righties, and he throws that cutter to lefties. So you saw the sinker right there, and then you saw the cutter to match his big slider. So in the past, he hasn't been able to put hitters away because they've had, it's just slider, and his four seam, didn't get a lot of swing and miss. So then he added that two seam to move right. That really helped him with right-handers. He added that cutter that turned left that helped him with lefties. And then he also had the big-time slider that he's always had, that one right there. And then lo and behold, all of the residual effects of that were that his four-seam fastball ended up getting better. See that big slider there? And so Antonio Knowles, very, very skilled. But then again, he's another one of those guys like Hobbsy. He's not 100 miles an hour, right? Mm-hmm. And if the Dodgers felt like he was imminent to the major leagues, you would have thought that. I mean, he's been in Double-A for like 8 years now, right? You would have thought that they would have at least moved him up to Triple-A Oklahoma City to, because Triple-A Oklahoma City goes an entire series longer than Double-A Tulsa, 6 games. So I'm thinking if they have any plans for him that are immediate, they're going to move him up and let him pitch those last 6 games at Oklahoma City. They did not. So I think that tells you right there he's not going to get protected.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. What you just saw right there, DK throw runner out at home plate. Spent all of last season in Tulsa. Spent a lot of the 2023 season in Tulsa. I would envision if he's around with the organization, which I would anticipate him being, spending a lot of time and getting opportunities for Oklahoma City during this upcoming season. I think that's next progression for him. I think that jump up to the big leagues is probably a little bit too big of a jump immediately just because I haven't seen him in Oklahoma City quite yet. So I wouldn't anticipate him getting taken, although that slider is really good.
Oh, it's legit.
It's legit.
You got to see if major league hitters will swing at it. And if they don't, can he actually keep it in the zone? And then the one that he throws in the strike zone, that one right there, is that end zone pitch one that can also get major league hitters out. You learn all that at the AAA level, right? So
yes.
Okay, let's move on to our next guy.
All right, the next guy that is on the list alphabetically, Jack Little.
Yeah. I think Jack Little, he made it up to AAA. I don't think he's going to get protected. I don't think he's going to get taken. So he came back this last year, had a good year. Nothing wrong with the year he had. And he did make it up to AAA, so I could be wrong there. So let's keep going on that one.
Yep. Yeah. Really talented. He was able to come back. Really cool to see him come back, get an entire season within this organization. I think it's unlikely that he gets taken. Similar thing with Orlando Ortiz-Meyer. I think it's unlikely that he gets taken as well. One of these guys, similar to a Hongil Choy, meaning that he spent a lot of time kind of maneuvering.
Hold on. They're watching Jack Little. I want to show this because I want to show the emotions that he shows here. And Dalton Rushing, how he gets Jack Little all fired up. So you're talking about Orlando Ortiz-Meyer, but they're watching Jack Little here. I want to keep this on here. So keep going.
Yeah, no. So yeah, this is Jack Little right here, and you're gonna see a little bit of the emotion with him and with Dalton Rushing in a very high leverage situation, a 1-run game. Him be able to come through and just the excitement and the competitive nature. I think this shows you a lot of the competitive. You can see right there with Dalton Rushing behind the plate right there, and that's one of the reasons why we're so excited and so high on Dalton Rushing is his ability to be able to help his pitchers pitchers get through these high pressure situations. And he was able to do that in this case with Jack Little against Wichita, which that team was the Cedar Rapids team beforehand that won the championship right there. Woo!
Yeah, I love it. And you were talking about Orlando Ortiz Mayer, nice pitcher. Young man who probably was Tulsa's best pitcher last year. He does that right there, pitchability. He's very Yunil Choyish. He's about 94, 95, somewhere in there. Moves the ball, locates. And so, typically speaking, very Landon Knackish, where you'll wake up and he's in the 6th inning because he's created a lot of – when he's going well, he's not missing bats, he's missing barrels and creating a lot of weak contact.
Yes, I think that's exactly right. He's able to provide bulk innings, whether it's as a starter or if it's coming out of. I know he did a lot of piggyback starts when he was with Great Lakes, and so it's not the insane velo type of stuff. So I wouldn't anticipate another team taking him in the Rule 5 draft. And I think if you had to make that bet, you would say the Dodgers probably would not protect him. Still an incredibly valuable pitcher to have within this organization because he's going to be able to get you through a lot of innings through the season. And you're going to wake up, it's the 5th or the 6th inning, and he's still pitching. And he's putting up some zeros.
Yeah, we are covering him out of thoroughness, but he would be a massive surprise if he was either protected or taken. So who's the next guy on your list?
Yeah, another guy kind of would be a really big surprise. Went through a lot of really good stretches, struggled towards the end of his season. I think he's out in Arizona right now. Kelvin Ramirez spent all of last season with Great Lakes, had some stretches where he was one of the most reliable relievers out of the Great Lakes bullpen. And through stretches of the 2024 season where there is a lot of struggle for relief pitchers to throw strikes, he was one of those guys, especially during the first couple of months, where he was much more consistent at being able to throw strikes and getting hitters out. He was called upon in a lot of high leverage situations. I still think there's a lot more to his development to get him to the place where he's going to be ready to face major league hitters. So I think because that is the case, I don't think he's going to be taken in the Rule 5 draft, and I don't think the Dodgers are going to protect him. But I think he's going to spend a lot of time with AA Tulsa next season, and I think you're going to be excited to see a lot of the growth and the development, especially if he's able to build off of what he did early in 2024. If we get that type of pitcher, I think he's really talented with what he's able to do.
100% he is. Okay, keep going with the names on your list.
All right, the next guy on my list, which we talked about briefly at the beginning because of his most recent outing in the Arizona Fall League, which he's out there in the Arizona Fall League. Another one of these starters. He can also be a bulk pitcher. Jermaine Rosario, with what he's able to do.
Interesting.
He's an intriguing case because it can be a little bit inconsistent at times with what he's able to do. But when he's on, he is on, and he's one of the more effective guys to have out there on the mound. I was really impressed with the strides that he was able to make during his time in Great Lakes, and then that jump that he was able to make up to the Tulsa level. When he is on, he's one of the better pitchers out there. Getting a little bit more consistent outing to outing, I think, is one of the next steps that Jermaine's going to be able to have. But like what we saw the other day with the Desert Dogs out in Arizona, he can go out there and he can provide 3 innings and strike out just about every single hitter that he faces.
I totally agree. Jermaine Rosario, the key to him, we mentioned, is absolutely consistency. So move on with your list and let's go to our next guy.
All right, we got a couple more guys that we have on this list. It's getting pretty late on the show. So the next one that we're going to have, we have 2 more guys that deserve to be mentioned. Christian Suarez, left-handed reliever on the list. Another one of those guys I want to anticipate being taken. Strikes, I think being able to throw more consistently within the strike zone. Another one of those guys that I was so incredibly impressed with what he was able to do early in the 2024 season at Great Lakes. I remember there's an outing against Fort Wayne that he had where I think the bases were loaded with nobody out, and it was a close, tight-scoring game. And he was able to find a way to get out of that inning. And I just saw because he had spent a lot of time during 2023 with Great Lakes, I didn't see that innate bulldog type mentality that he had back then. I saw that shine against that in that game against Fort Wayne last season. And I think that shows just some of the upside of what he's able to do. He's able to be fighting. He's able to be a competitive type pitcher within this organization. He's got a lot of talent and the ability to be able to do that. I think, again, more of that consistency type factor is going to be the next step for Christian Suarez. Talent is there. He was able to make that jump early last season to Double-A Tulsa. So he continued to make those steps within this organization and climb that ladder to the major league level. Still got more steps to be able to take, which is why I think he's likely to stick around within this Dodgers organization.
Yep, and then Ryan Sublette would be the last guy here.
Yes, he's another one of those fun, talented pitcher.
Suarez, no. Are you a no on Suarez?
I would say probably yes. At this point, yes.
Okay, so Ryan Sublette, young man out of Texas Tech, side slaughter here. Very talented in terms of he just doesn't ever get hit very hard. Another guy that hasn't been able to master the strike zone yet.
Yes, and that is the thing, to be able to make that next step, that next progression, to reach the arm talent that he has, to be able to match that with the production level, I think has to be the more consistency, being able to throw strikes. Yeah. If he's able to do that, I mean, you look at some of the stuff, it's really good stuff that he's able to produce. And I think he has the ability to get a lot of major league hitters out. I think a lot of major league teams are looking for more of that consistency for him before putting a lot of the trust in him being on a major league roster. But look out for Ryan Sublette with what he's able to do. If he sticks around within this Dodgers organization, I think he's going to get a lot of time for the Oklahoma City Comets.
So I think, in summation, I think Jack Dreyer will get protected. I don't think Ryan Ward will get protected, but I think he will get taken. And I don't think Cody Hoese will get protected. I think he will get taken. And I think the guys to watch as far as the Dodgers protecting are Austin Gauthier, Choy, and Carlos Duran. So that's kind of where I'm at. I think Dreyer is going to get protected. I think Ward and Hoese won't get protected. They will get taken. And then I think it's very interesting to watch what's going to happen with Austin Gauthier, Choy, Carlos Duran, and then Jose Ramos is still out there as a wild card. Nothing would surprise me about that. I would not personally protect him. I would not personally take him, but I could understand why somebody else would see the potential. That's my summation. Do you have any disagreement with that? You want to add anything to that?
All right, so here's where I'm at, and I'll just overview again where the Dodgers roster is at. They currently have 37 players on their 40-man roster. Now, let's say that they go ahead and do the exact same thing they did with Connor Brogdon as they do with Zach Logue, who's currently on their 40-man roster. That brings it down to 36. Then you talk about players like a Hunter Fiducio or a Gavin Lux based off of the roster moves that the Dodgers have made. Yeah. There could be an opportunity for them to be able to trade them. That brings it down to 34. Then you're starting to see some openings, especially if you're able to convince some of the legacy type players to sign after spring training, in which case some of the roster spots, because of some of the injured pitchers, you'd be able to move them onto the 60-day injured list, could open up, which I think could be the case if you wanted to resign like a Clayton Kershaw or a Kike Hernandez. If I were making the choices, which I am not making the choices, the Dodgers are making the choices, and they're a lot smarter than I am, and they know plans that I don't know about.
Of course.
If I were the Dodgers and I were making a lot of these moves, the guys that I would protect would be the Maytag Jack Dreyer, because of his ability to throw it out of the bullpen and his incredible intelligence that he has. I would probably, and this could be just because I've done a lot of, I really love the style of play that he has. Austin Gauthier, I think would be absolutely phenomenal within the organization. I think his versatility fits with what the Dodgers wants and the profile of player that could really help this team going forward.
So you're pretty confident that they're gonna protect him then.
This is what I would do. As far as predicting what the Dodgers would do.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I was doing. I was predicting what I think the Dodgers are going to do. As far as Dreyer and Ward, I think that, we are going to protect Dreyer, not Ward. not Hoese. I think Ward and Hoese, after not getting protected, will get taken, and then I have no idea what they're going to do with Gator, Choy, and Carlos Duran. That's kind of what I was saying.
Yeah. And, as far as what the Dodgers are going to do, I don't know exactly what they're going to do. I think the Dodgers absolutely should protect Jack Dreyer, and I would be surprised if they did not protect him. I think there's a really good argument for the Dodgers to protect a guy like an Austin Gauthier, and if it was up to me personally, I would definitely do that. As far as a lot of the other guys, I think some of the position backing it up, I think it would be difficult for the Dodgers, especially because they have roster spots taken up for the 2025 season, and they have roles that they want to fill currently. I think there's definitely some moves that the Dodgers want to make that they can't make because of some of the injuries that they have on their roster unless they trade some of those pieces. I think that could limit some of the factors to where they only protect one or two of these guys. If it was up to me, though, again, this is up to me right now where I am at currently right now. It would be Jack Dreyer. It would be Austin Gauthier, and yes, I'm still going to stick to my guns. I would still protect Jose Rodriguez.
Yeah. So let's finish right here. Dreyer, yes, for both of us. I would say it again. Ryan Ward, no. Cody Hoese, no. I think we're both in agreement that they have a good chance of getting taken.
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
And then I think Austin Gauthier, Hyunil Choy, Carlos Duran are the ones that, boy, I don't think even the Dodgers, you could ask anybody in the Dodgers system, they could tell you right now. I don't think they've made their mind up on those guys. And so then you have, like your guys, like your potential guys like Jose Ramos. And then I think your three sleeper picks are Jose Rodriguez, DK, Damon Keith, and Ben Harris. I think those are your three sleeper picks right there. And then maybe a Jermaine Rosario. I think you could throw him in a sleeper category. So that's the summation of everything that we did tonight. So you have any final thoughts there, Austin?
Oh, man. Obviously,
I've had a blast on this show. We went back to the roots, brother.
Obviously, we love talking about the Dodgers and rumors and free agency. Nothing will excite me. Like we could talk about Dodgers potentially signing Juan Soto or Willie Adames.
I'd rather talk about Jack Dreyer.
Those shows are nothing in comparison to this show and talking about these players because these players deserve it. Absolutely deserve being covered, and there's not a lot of other places where you can get this type of coverage where you can get it from people that actually get to watch them and get to know some of these players, which I think is the fun part about being able to get some of these player interviews, because it also shows some of the personality behind these players that Casey and I get to see throughout the summers when we go to the ballpark each and every single night. When I'm driving an hour there and an hour back to go to the stadium, these shows are fun to do. I hope here's what I hope for each one of these guys. Whatever it takes for them to get to the major leagues, I'm down for it. If it means that Jack Dreyer is not protected by the Dodgers because the Dodgers have something else in mind to help them win a World Series, but he gets selected by another organization, I'm 100% for. Same thing with all of these guys that I would consider protecting for this Dodgers team, or guys that I wouldn't consider protecting. If there's a complete surprise and another organization takes one of these guys, that means they believe in them, and that means that they're going to give them an opportunity at the major league level. For each and every single guy on this list and each and every single guy that we cover throughout the system, I hope whatever it takes for them to get the best opportunity to have a major league career. Personally, I am 100% for. I think the Dodgers are incredibly talented, and I would love to see each one of these guys on the Dodgers. I also know that's not realistic. So however many guys can get drafted from the Rule 5 draft, I'm hoping for the maximum amount of damage. Even though that might hurt the Dodgers system, that gives these players opportunities. And if they get an opportunity at the major league level, that will forever be part of them. They were a major league ball player, and that is my hope. That is my dream for each one of these guys, because each one of these guys fights and deserves to be a major league player.
All right, Austin, we've gone on for about an hour and 48 minutes now, so I think it's time to put this one to bed. Hey, thanks a lot, man.
Appreciate it, Case.
It's a great day to be a Dodger.